Imagine being stuck in a congested elevator and suddenly you feel a hand uncomfortably touch you from behind. About a few years ago, I was sitting in one of my life skills sessions in school. Our mentor put us in a hypothetical situation, asking us to imagine ourselves in a closed elevator where we are touched inappropriately. The questions he posed were, what would you do, and how do you feel? To my surprise, the most common emotions felt were actually of shame and embarrassment. On further discussion, I realized that many of my peers would choose to go through what was happening than speak up. It was quite shocking to know that students growing up in quite educated households still chose to remain silent. On listening to our responses, our mentor explained to us that there was more we could do than just stand there. I left that session inspired and thought, you know what? It sucks that there are so many kids out there who are not exposed to this kind of mentorship. And hence, I reached out to a regional leader of Lean In to start Teen In. I, being a senior in high school, am well aware of the problems faced by those my age. I am no outsider, and hence attempting to make a difference in other teenagers' lives seemed necessary. Let's break this down into 3 simple words. Why, what, and how. Why did I start Teen In? What is Teen In, and how have I taken this forward? Why did I start Teen In? Women constitute 48.5% of our population. 30 years ago, working women in India, 28%. Now, working women in India, 24%. And women in white-collar jobs, 7%. The numbers are not going up. For the past 7 years, there have been many women's support groups, but has that made a difference in the stats? No. We need to mentor kids in the early stages of their lives to see them as strong individuals in the workforce. Trying to sustain those women who are already in the workforce is a much harder job than pushing forward the early birds. As I always say, why start the change from women who are old enough to have their personalities molded? Instead, I could help teenagers who are in the process of finding themselves and their root, and that is why I started Teen In. Now, what is Teen In? Teen In is a circle within the Lean In networks that works with boys and girls in identifying and achieving their dreams. The goals of Teen In have always been directed towards self-confidence, education, and most importantly, equality. Qualities that lead to the feeling of being empowered and strong. The reason we work with teenagers all together is because equality is not a concept that can be taught to one specific gender. It needs to be taught to all from a young age. If one specific gender believes that they are not equal to the other, equality in the future, either in the workforce or at home, can never be achieved. Now, how have I taken this forward? As the founder of Teen In, I have given many talks at corporate offices of multinational companies and held an international webinar across UK and India, accompanied by Head of Lean In Witty India, Head of Lean In UK, and a consultant for UNICEF, who works towards enforcing child education. We have also held many events at both rural and private schools, and currently we are working with about 930 students across Bangalore. In the 2 schools we are working with currently, we have focused our attention on different spheres. In the rural school, we have emphasized on education, and in the private school, we've looked towards fears. In the rural school, these kids grow up in an environment where education is not emphasized upon after grade 10. Hence, these kids cannot grow into strong and confident individuals. I believe that the first step to empowerment is education, and that is why our activities in this school focused on that. First, the kids were asked to do a quick speed introduction, where they introduced themselves to people whom they do not speak to on a daily basis. This gave them the chance to speak up, step out of their comfort zones. Then these kids formed groups of 8, where they wrote down their career-focused dream, the limitations or barriers that may come in the way when trying to pursue it, and the measures they plan to take if those obstacles become a reality. On spending 20 minutes to do so, they shared this with their peers. Well, what did they achieve through this? 1, it gave them a medium to speak to their peers. 2 weeks before I went to this school for this session, I met up with a girl who had grown up in a similar environment. As our conversation went on, we came to the topic of her education. She explained to me how when she was younger and spoke about her future at home, she was told to never bring up such a topic again. Knowing such circumstances, I wanted to give these kids an open environment where they were free to talk about their future, their dreams, what gives them inspiration, and what they look forward to in their life. Second, for those who had not thought about it, it was a form of self-realization, where they got to see what their peers are looking towards, in turn inspiring them. With this rural school specifically, we did have a few difficulties. For example, we had to take permission from so many people just to let these kids form groups with both boys and girls, as that's not normal in their school. All in all, the highlight of the event was when a little girl came up to me after it was done, and she said, "Never in my entire life have I felt equal to the boys, but today you just made me feel that way." Let me show you a short snippet of another girl from that school.
Everything is possible, nothing is impossible. And this is the most important concept taught by the teen group. And this is an excellent project, an excellent mission, excellent aim, which is helping a lots and lots of teenagers. And I would like to tell them that please go continue this in many other schools, and not for a day, not for a year, go on doing throughout your life. And don't forget that along with you, we all the teenagers are there for your support, to support your teen group.
Moving to the private school, the structure of the activity remained the exact same. The only difference being that we focused on their fears. Here, education is already an established part of their lives. Hence, you would expect them to be strong and confident. But what was coming in their way? Their fears. Here, talking to the kids is what empowered them in working through their obstacles. Again, the process of sharing is what allowed them to get input and advice from their friends. It also made them realize that everyone around them is going through the same hurdles and obstacles that they are. What may seem like an easy task was actually really hard to execute. Ironically, we learned a lot about facing our own fears through this. The workshop with the kids was a mammoth of a job, and we may have stumbled, but looking back, there were a lot of positives. It may seem like I have benefited so many others, which I do hope I did, but this initiative helped me more than I could have imagined. Being in the senior year of high school is not the easiest, but getting the chance to interact with kids always gave me a break. Getting the chance to meet children who are grateful for the little of they have, whose eyes light up when you just bring them cupcakes, and who leave the session inspired is honestly a dream come true. By visiting the rural school, I realized that I have grown up in an environment where my parents, teachers, and other adult figures treated me no different from the boys. I grew up knowing that I had the right to make my own decisions, but also learned that many around me don't have that same freedom. For me, education was about being forced to go to school every day and learn about geometry or the history of India. But for many others, it meant so much more. It was their path to independence, their path to freedom, and I feel grateful to have brought them closer to their dream. I aspire to see the growth of Teen In nationally and internationally, and I'm ready to embrace all the challenges that come my way. Now, having heard this, you might think, what can a 12th grader actually do to change things around her? Guess what? I believe the same. All I can do is push an idea forward and hope to see it grow into a sustainable community. But I really need your help in increasing the awareness. Maybe one day teenagers all over the world will get the courage to speak up. If you know a teenager, just go talk to them. Everyone needs someone to talk to, so please be that support. Thank you.